I'm Mick Jordan, I'm the editor of Works magazine. I'm here today with the brilliant Helen Berresford from IDSR, Sheppard Robson, and Devinder Bhogal, Director of Workplace Strategy at Deloitte, to discuss the subject, shaping workplaces that stand the test of time. So, when Sheppard Robson realised the office design for Deloitte, achieving the highest ever BREEAM rating of 94%, which was conceived as a unique and inspiring workplace supporting an ever-evolving workplace culture, this 270,000 square foot project delivered a space that extends beyond the boundaries of traditional office design, adopting an innovative approach to working environments, placing employee and client growth at its core. And furthermore, this was one that was designed to last. So, over the next 40 minutes or so, Devinder and Helen here are going to tell us the story of how this amazing transformation took place and how Deloitte has transformed its space and also its entire workplace strategy, with the results being recognised last year with One New Street Square picking up the BCO's Test of Time Award. Mm-hmm. So, to start with, congratulations on the award.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the origins of One New Street Square, well, the wider campus.
Yeah, not a problem. So it ultimately came from a lease opportunity. So we were in a position where we could review what was happening on our London campus. One New Street Square was an opportunity for us to take that space, but we were able to just take a step back and really think about what does this mean for London as a whole, from a Deloitte perspective, from our workplace, from our client experience. And we went on that journey of really just listening to our people, listening to what their aspirations were for a future workplace. And delving into that engagement gave us a real foundation of what we needed to deliver. And it was about pushing the boundaries, but it was also just about making sure we could build those connections, make sure that we were looking at opportunities to build relationships with our people, with our clients. You know, we've got 4 different businesses and we had to really understand what their requirements were. So it was a bit of a step back. Let's reimagine what we can do on our London campus, with One New Street Square being that catalyst, I would say.
Yeah, there were, I was lucky enough to wander around the space, obviously with yourself.
Yeah.
That was pre-COVID. Do you remember those days?
It's a long time ago.
Before that thing happened, yeah. And I remember back then you'd tell us about key principles, 5 key principles guided the design of One New Street Square. Tell us about the 5 principles and how they were implemented.
Yeah, and this is where, you know, IDSR
Obviously,
worked
Helen
very closely with us as well. So, you know, for us, there were 2 aspects of this. What do we actually want to design and give back to our people? But also, what do we want to get buy-in from our business leaders on as well? And, you know, it was about creating a bit of a vision with them, so that they could support that evolution of the workplace, the change that we were trying to embed. The design kind of came once we got the business bought into those principles, but they were ultimately making sure we were creating something that was unique, that was simple, connected, relevant, and inspiring. You know, we had a great opportunity with the London campus to do something that was pushing boundaries and really, you know, pushing ourselves and hopefully pushing Sheppard Robson a little bit as well.
And we were. For us, it was a great challenge, but it was quite interesting because, I mean, you tend to think of yourself as architects, interior designers, and thinking about place. But when we first started working with Deloitte, we spent a year really working through the master plan and the vision, and, you know, really bringing together people on one hand and an organisation that's tens of thousands of people needing a home in London that's going to work for them in you know, who knows what the future was going to hold, and goodness me if we had a crystal ball at that stage. But it also was about the campus, and when you're looking at the chunks of space that Deloitte were, and originally they had 6 buildings in the New Street Square area, I mean, great buildings for sure, but they needed to think smart about consolidating their buildings. So I think what was fascinating was when you looked at the master plan, originally Deloitte had a different sort of lease event for every different building, and every time, if this is okay for me to say, a new partner came in, they started to go, right, well, here's the new building, I want to make my mark on this building, so we'll put lovely meeting rooms at the top of the building, and then we'll work teams below, and it will be my team's sort of building, effectively. But you tended to find over the years that when we would go and visit in that first year, that you'd find yourself in one building, and suddenly the meeting got rearranged, because obviously it's a pretty complex meeting arrangement with the numbers of people coming into that and the footfall in Deloitte. And it would take you 10 minutes to get from one building down along up to the next building. And it was very inefficient. So a lot of the first meetings we had with people saying, sorry, it's the Deloitte building, I'm late, because of course I'm late for the building, because the building's delaying me. And that struck us as a real fundamental issue. Simple, make the flow of the master plan simple. And so, then we started with, well, what do you need from this one new building that's going to draw this together and be a bit smarter than, just a standalone sort of building? It needs to be a campus approach.
How diverse were those 6 buildings?
They were pretty diverse in a sense that more from the age of the buildings.
In terms of style and
standard. In terms of style, yeah. But I think what we also had was businesses in each of the different buildings. So as Helen kind of alluded to, one building would be a particular business and they felt it was theirs. What we wanted to do was start to break those boundaries and really start to look at how can we build a community, how can we give a sense of belonging. And we did that through creating quite a few shared spaces. So all of a sudden it wasn't owned by any particular business. It was about bringing people together into those, the shared restaurants, the coffee shops, the shared working spaces as well. So it was around how can we use this as an opportunity to connect our people across businesses as well, rather than it being quite siloed.
And that needed a master plan approach.
Yeah.
Because you literally, when you're designing a building for, say, 100 or 200 or even 500, it's a size of organisation that you can relate to. But when you're looking at 10, 15,000 people coming to a campus, and you've got quite a lot of working from home when pre-COVID, how do you bring that sense of community? You've got to leverage the footfall, which is tremendous, and you're really talking a big bit of GDP as well. And I remember when we were doing the bridge link to New Street Square, we started to look at how it's phenomenal Deloitte is as a global, but also a British sort of based organisation. So you trying to create a place that Devinder was talking about. On one hand, with scale, but on another hand, that had sort of intimacy, variety, and places where people felt like they could inhabit, and there was a workplace hospitality in some of those spaces.
I mean, like Helen mentioned, this doesn't come for free, and there's some real serious investment here. What was the catalyst for that?
I'll go back to it. The lease triggered it all off for us, to be fair. The opportunity.
Yeah, that should trigger.
But I think for us, it was about that experience that we wanted to give back to our people and to our clients. We had a huge opportunity to reimagine what we do for our clients, how we engage with them, bring about that informality. And it was about putting, us back onto the portfolio of future working, really reimagining who we are. And, we are a big firm. We've got a huge number of people, and we wanted to demonstrate that we're invested in our people. Just simple things like when we were looking at the master plan, usually the top terraces would go to clients. We actually gave that back to our people. We were really trying to think about, okay, how are we investing in our people? Our talent are huge value to us. We are a people business. And if we're not investing in the workplaces, there's a risk of not having the best talent, not attracting the best talent. So that was one of the levers for us to really invest in our workplace as well.
And the first thing you notice when you go back, and when I was going back for the more intensely, so the first couple of years after completion, you'd always meet people in the coffee shop. And you wander off the street, and normally the corporate experience is quite intimidating and all about grand gesture. And there is certainly the grandeur in One New Street Square and the campus. But then when you walk through into the coffee area, you're in the best coffee shop in town, basically. And there was always people you'd bump into, and all of that serendipitous stuff that, we talk about as trying to aspire to within an office. It's way more than an office. It's an area where you do go and catch up with a colleague or a friend or somebody you haven't spoken to, or a client even, in those environments. And suddenly business grows from ideas that you get from meeting people, and all sorts of people.
Yeah. And I think for us more broadly, it did redefine the workplace strategy from a Deloitte perspective. And we've taken what we built from One New Street Square into our future projects as well. So, the kind of social aspects, the connected spaces, that's been something that we've drawn out in all of our recent projects as well. So it really kind of established who we wanted to be and how we represent that through our working spaces, through our client experience. And ultimately, it's about our people and giving them something back, and the workplace can definitely do that. I know some of our spaces were real catalysts to, bringing that social element back when we did come back after COVID and that return to work. Bringing people into shared spaces really enables that in a really positive way, because it's for everyone. As much as we've got 4 businesses, they all work very differently. That community feel is really, really important. And that was massively more important when we were slowly bringing everyone back into the office.
And I think there's a social professional, because certainly if you look at how we've been reviewing how places, it's a marvellous to think of us all here kind of gathered together in an informal place. Bringing people together brings excellence. So that opportunity to be able to encourage people, and it's not just about the social togetherness, although we all probably missed that during that period of time in the last few years, but what's really important was that professional social, where you do start to absolutely knit together different types of people, diverse types of people, clients working more informally with Deloitte to help their business grow. That there was so many breaking down boundaries, but not just by creating flexible spaces, but by purposefully creating formal, and there certainly is beautiful formal places at the top of the building in Deloitte. But equally, for example, the meeting rooms, on the lower floors, those are slightly more transactional meetings that, if you think of the range of clients Deloitte has, not everybody wants to, go up to the top floor and, have that sort of more sort of well-being experience, or the more sort of entertainment type experience. The more transactional meetings could then be on the lower floors, either in the coffee shop but in formal meeting rooms.
Yeah, it goes from very informal through to
flow-wise, it was much more efficient for a building that we were, working really hard.